Hey everyone, here we got the Samsung 970 Pro SSD. This goes on the M.2 slot. It's actually the successor to the Samsung 960 that came out in 2016. Here we got the 512 gigabyte model. Similar speeds, though this one's probably just a little bit faster. I would say this would be an unboxing video, but the packaging is not too special. There's actually not much details of it on the back, just scan barcodes, 5-year limited warranty, and just other little details as well too. But I'll go ahead and pop this open for you. I will be installing this on one of my older chipset computers, not too old, maybe a good 2 years or so, and installing Windows on it, shooting some speeds, throwing in some specs, and maybe a little boot up test as well, just for show and tell. Just like the 950 and 960 Pro released before this one, it also came with a counterpart Evo version. Similar speeds, I believe different warranty as well too. Over here we're staring at this particular speed here, that's our Pro version. Very impressive, 3500 read, 2700 write speed when compared to SATA SSDs that usually are 500 to 550 read speed, around that range, thereabouts. So hoping to knock out, get speeds very similar to these. But I do know many factors kick into this. Obviously PCI lanes are definitely a factor. It actually may even take over some SATA ports from what I read as well too. So we'll go ahead and give this a shot and see how it does. Nothing too special when it comes to unboxing, but I'll go ahead and do that after we remove this tape in the corner here. We have our M.2 drive right here. Little plastic cover on top to protect it from falling. That has actually happened with another SSD M.2 chip I took out. Some paperwork back here as well too. And there's the chip. You know, I'll be honest, this actually looks a lot smaller. The size in the pictures and websites before you buy it really doesn't do any justice. This chip actually looks quite a bit smaller than I thought, but looking at the board, I should have probably considered it to be. Area where you put the screw here, and connectors right here as well too. It's basically the size of a stick of gum. Over here is the slot we're going to be putting it in on the board itself. Currently on this particular computer I have a dual RAID SSD, also Samsung SSDs, 950 Pros, two 256s in RAID 0 mode, striping, so both of them will add up to 512. Getting about a gigabyte a second speed on it, which is still incredibly fast, but this chip will actually work even better. So go ahead and give that a shot. Sorry about the little messy wiring here. I did remove the video card and separate sound card here just to make some room, just to show you the slot right there. All secure. Gotta tell you what a pain it is to get those little screws into the right place, because this thing always flips up like a drawbridge. Over here I got the prep ready for the USB thumb drive I'll be using for this build. Went ahead and tossed in the DVD, thumb drive. I'll go ahead and shoot a link down here to a video of how to use this tool. It'll basically add you USB 3 drivers, and in this case, unlike the video, I also add NVMe drivers, which I'll need for this installation. Very useful tool. I highly recommend it for Windows 7 builds when you're using the later CPU generations and new chipsets. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this computer on. Computer's a little slightly noisier because I have the side panel off, so don't mind all the noise and even the little physical hard drive whirling and starting up. Speaking of hard drives, I'm going to go into the BIOS and just demonstrate one thing to you. Now I do have the chip obviously installed on the board, but I went ahead and disconnected all my SSDs that's on the RAID, and as well as the physical hard drive here. And it's really important if you decide to do this while you still have active hard drives, just in case of, because you do not want to accidentally override anything. So here you can clearly see We have just a DVD drive here. We have the Samsung drive here as well too. It's not showing up. There you go. The 970. And here's our boot device that we'll be using to install Windows 7. Now, just unplugging the SATA ports is sufficient. You can still leave power. As you probably just heard my hard drive whirling up, and that's perfectly fine. If there's any information you want to take off them, an older SSD or a physical hard drive, you can plug them right after Windows 7 installation. And again, I really stress this because you do not want to overwrite either of your drives, or try to mess them up in any particular comic fashion. Not so comic when you realize what happened. So I went ahead and set the thumb drive as a boot device, and we'll go ahead and restart this computer. So I'm just going to initiate the boot select device. And here we are. So here we'll go ahead and select our thumb drive. We're not going to be using this kind of boot. That's for Windows 10. So we'll be using the regular legacy boot. Keep in mind though, this is obviously an older chipset, so USB ports, with the exception of USB 3 ports, will be recognized, and SATA ports are generically recognized as well too. The thumb drive build we did should recognize NVMe, so this should be able to be picked up. So far so good. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue here. This is actually Windows 7 Ultimate that I'm installing here from the original DVD disc that I bought. It's not SP1, something to bear in mind as well too. Just go ahead and accept all this stuff. We're going to hit obviously brand new installation. And in this case, our new Samsung 970 Pro is picked up from the thumb drive build we did. Very likely we will not be picking this up if we just use a regular DVD or a build. So let's go ahead and just hit next. And here we go. Microsoft did add NVMe SSD support later with further updates. However, being that this is a non-SP1 Windows 7 disk, so this is the disk basically it just came out shortly after Windows 7 was released. None of that stuff is actually on it. One curious thing is that if that kind of support is actually available on SP1, so you might have a little better luck with that. I should definitely look into that. But in this case, we're just going to assume that by native, without using the tool we used earlier, it will not have it. Now, also, bear in mind, one or two friends of mine mentioned using this tool, and they were using another brand SSD, and it was not actually picked up. I don't remember if it was Intel or Corsair, but don't fret if that happens to you, because since now you have a thumb drive that allows you to have USB drivers, you can actually plug in another thumb drive in with your drivers for that particular SSD and actually load them. That was actually a big issue with newer generation CPUs installing Windows 7, where no USB drivers are available, and even if you plug anything in to load SATA drivers or any drivers to recognize your hard drives and whatnot, none of them will appear, leaving you in complete limbo. So this little tool that we did earlier to prep the thumb drive gave us that ability, and well, it also gave us the ability to see the SATA drives, and as well as the SSDs, just like the 970 Pro, the NVMe's. But just in case your drive is not recognized, you can always go ahead and plug in the drive and get your drivers loaded. I probably should demonstrate that little piece to you, but I'm pretty sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, just go ahead and shoot a comment. I'll see if I can shoot you a link for your particular model SSD. See if I can give you a hand. I definitely totally welcome questions and people who are having a couple of issues doing this particular method. I'll just go ahead and just leave this here. You can go ahead and just skip it a little bit. I'm pretty sure all of us have seen this installation window dozens and dozens, or in my case, hundreds of times, personal, home, and even work, if that's your field. I did put the side panel back on, so the computer is no longer as noisy as it was before. Some people wonder if this will actually be a little faster during installation. I guess you can kind of judge on your own if you think it's faster. It's definitely faster than using a DVD, but mind you, if you're using a thumb drive, it's probably going to be faster. Is it faster because I'm installing on the NVMe? I don't think you'll see that difference right now, but if you actually think it is, again, let us know. It's probably going to reboot once or twice. I'm pretty sure you guys already know that. Obviously, keyboard is working, and so is my mouse. Well, not those little laser lights underneath, but you can see, let's see the little blue LEDs on the side. Well, I didn't really have to show it to you now, did I? Just gonna go ahead and restart this manually right now. So far so good, and that will probably be the last reboot we do for installation. The next reboot will be booting into the actual OS with all the big fonts, and in this case a widescreen monitor, so everything's stretched out because driver is obviously not loaded. Not something you need to see, but I just want to go ahead and just get you to the first welcome screen with the initial screen telling you to make an account, password, computer name, enter product key, which I'll go ahead and skip for the time being, and just get you to the desktop and maybe shoot out device manager and just show you the driver that's installed for the Samsung drive we have here. Like I said earlier, I believe this driver will be different for every SSD that's NVMe, and if you need one particular driver during installation, you can definitely search for it online or just let us know in the comment. See if I can find you a link for your particular driver. This particular driver, I believe, is some Samsung generic that was probably installed on the thumb drive with a tool. But I guess we'll see what it says once we're done. Here comes our last reboot, leading us right into the welcome screen. Each Windows has a different number of reboots. I remember even installing Windows 98 and having it reboot, I would say a total of 3 times. XP will reboot maybe twice. Vista, I don't remember how many times that rebooted, because I'll be honest, I really did not use Vista much at all. I actually don't believe I ever installed Vista on any computer. 7, obviously you can tell it's booted up twice. And here's our welcome screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter a username and a computer name and take it to the next screen. Not going to put a password just yet, product key, but I will go ahead and enter this later. Ask me later, obviously, there is no internet connection because the Ethernet drivers are not installed. And I'll just put Eastern here. And here we go. Great, so here we are at the desktop with the unusually large fonts. I'll just go ahead and see if I can get the maximum resolution here just for fun. And it worked. I'll be honest, at this point with all drivers missing and updates missing, I wouldn't really expect you to notice the difference in speed. Let's go ahead and open Device Manager over here. And obviously a lot of stuff missing. But what we're looking for is over here. Go ahead and get a closer view of that. So that's our driver that was installed by the tool for the Samsung drive. You can tell these are actually different for each one, and this is actually a pretty late date from this year. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start doing some updates, install SP1 and whatnot. And once I get a bunch of stuff installed, I will go ahead and shoot a little clip where we actually use a program to check out the speed and see what kind of results we get in a little benchmark of read and write and whatnot. And maybe I'll even just do a little boot up test. So installation successful. Went ahead and installed all Windows updates that were available at the time. And you can see in Device Manager up there, we have the 970 Pro up and running. Pretty flawless. Just wanted to show ahead and go ahead and show the read-write speeds for this particular drive. And I'm just going to go ahead and use Crystal Mark and just run a little speed here. I'll probably just do one cycle here and just demonstrate the speeds. Very impressive. I will tell you, installing updates, definitely a noticeable difference, even installing SP1. As I said earlier, this Windows 7 installation I had is not SP1. And SP1, I believe, installed only like a minute to a minute and a half, 2 minutes max. Not too much of a difference in boot up times. In Windows 7, a lot of factors really kick into boot up times, and you can even see the smallest slim form factor business PC with just 8 little gigabytes of RAM, but an SSD boot up in like 5 to 10 seconds, while a computer with multi-core 16 to 32 core will still take up around 15 to 20 seconds on SSD, even something as fast as an M2. I'll go ahead and show you the boot up time, just a little boot cycle right there. These little benchmark numbers are coming in. The read speed, definitely very impressive. I was using 2 SSDs in RAID, so I gained about a gigabyte a second. Here I'm getting 3 gigabytes over 3500, 3.5. Write speed a little slower than advertised, but I really don't mind whatsoever. The read speed is excellent. This will be done in a moment. I'll go ahead and do a quick reboot and demonstrate that to you as well too. I also use some other benchmarking software as well too. I'll definitely put a screenshot from Samsung's Magician software, and got very similar numbers as well too. Very, very impressive, even on an older chipset and working on a slightly older OS as well too. I'm pretty sure these particular drives boot up Windows 10 very fast, and like literally a click of a button, in this case the power button. So very impressive numbers we have here. Definitely can't deny how fast this drive and how much of a difference it's made on this computer so far. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a reboot. What's your opinion about boot times? Do you start it right after the pulse screen shows, or do you start it the moment the computer actually is turned on and you flip the switch? Let me know. I actually think it's not a bad idea to count it right after the pulse screen shows up. I mean, that's when the actual OS is loading. So yeah, I mean, very similar speeds I'm getting to a dual SSD RAID, going at 1,000 megabytes a second. So boot time really, have to say, wasn't really too affected, even though obviously once I'm into Windows, I definitely do see big differences in much software, just random programs I'm just opening up here. So yeah. Very impressive little drive, and I definitely look forward to using more M.2 drives in the future. The speed of it is very impressive, and the numbers really just don't lie. Again, it really just depends what you're going to be using it for. If it comes to terms of load times in video games, some have actually noticed some difference, others, I guess it just really depends. If you have been using an SSD for a particular game that does take a while to load, you may just be getting very similar speeds or very slightly, marginally faster speeds on a drive like this. So, something to bear in mind. Don't expect it to be 3 times faster just because it's about 3 times faster than the speed I originally had, which is 1,000 megs. Now I have 3.5 thousand. I'm not going to be expecting it to be 350% faster, not even close. But very impressive. I will actually be using one of these drives on a Windows 10 installation. I definitely look forward to uploading that. I definitely look forward to checking that out when I do. I hope you found this video helpful, and go ahead and pull out this box here again of the drive once again. The 970 Pro by Samsung, M.2 drive. Definitely the numbers don't lie. Thanks again for checking this video out. If you found it useful, shoot a like, subscribe if you'd like, leave a comment if you have any questions. Share your experiences with these new drives on an older OS or even the newer OSs. Any other particular OS, just share your boot times and any other particular things you wanted to point out. Did something make you ooh and ah when they came to these new drives compared to a regular SATA SSD? Curious to hear about it. Take care of them.